They call me Squirrel.
What's going on, Squirrel Squad? It's your boy, the Squirrel. And you know, last week I did this piece where I compared prices of $30 worth of groceries from Aldi local over in the UK versus a lot of what we pay for groceries over here in the United States. Now, I know a lot of people have said that since that was recorded, that inflation has gone crazy, and judging by the thumbnail of this video, I'm not so sure that this guy's going to agree with me, but inflation has gone nuts over here. I can tell you that our monthly food budget is up about 47%. That's overall what we budget for food every month for our family. And that's crazy. But I heard that this was compared U.S. and U.K. grocery prices to last year's. Here's what I found. So let's see what comparisons this gentleman has, and let's see the comparison of how the inflation has treated both countries and the comparison of food. So without further ado, we're going to check out this video here, and we'll chat about it as we go through. I'll make sure I pause and throw my 2 cents in, and let's watch something a little more updated. You guys ready? Let's do it.
The cost of living just keeps going up. Feels like every time I'm out shopping for groceries, the price is so much higher than last time. But are things getting more expensive in the UK than the US? Let's head back to my studio and get to the bottom of things.
Hi, Evan Ettinger here, US-UK YouTuber guy. About a year ago, I uploaded a video on this very channel comparing the prices of groceries in the US versus the UK, but a lot has happened since then. For instance, while the British pound has been struggling a lot, Brexit has completely thrown inflation in the UK into overdrive, and anecdotally, I swear my food shops are so much more expensive than they were last year. Now, you'll see a lot about inflation in the news, but it's really hard to visualize it except for when you get the receipt at the end of your weekly shop. And so, luckily for me and for you, I've got the exact prices of all the groceries that I used in my video last year, so now we can actually visualize just how much inflation is affecting the US and the UK, and see who actually is gonna come out on top this time. I'm gonna be going with the same rules as I did last year to keep it as similar as possible to avoid any unwanted variables entering the mix. That would be grocery. No. Just as last time, the UK brands we're gonna be looking at are Sainsbury's and Tesco because they are mid-range. They're definitely not Waitrose, and they're definitely not Asda. In the US, again, I went with Acme and ShopRite because they're not Whole Foods up top and they're definitely not Walmart at the bottom. And if you've never heard of either of these,
just so that we're on the same page, Acme, I'm not sure of Acme any time I've ever seen it. It's always been like a cheap store at the mall where you can get a bunch of, it's almost like a dollar store kind of. And then ShopRite is definitely, ShopRite's like, I don't know, it's right on par with Aldi. So I'm not sure what part of the country he's from where there's an Acme grocery store, but ShopRite, where I'm from, is right about Aldi level. It's pretty low on the amenities and low on organization of the store and low on the friendliness of the employees. But for that, you get better priced groceries. So, yeah.
Well, just know that Acme is owned by the same company as Kroger, Safeway, Albertsons. So if you're aware of that company, it's pretty much the same thing. Just the East Coast.
Those are definitely, Shaw's and Orange. Okay, so Shaw's is where I'm at. Albertsons, it's in blue. Albertsons is actually very heavy on the southeastern part of the United States as well. Florida's loaded with Albertsons. So I don't know why they're just on the West Coast in this, but that's fine. And Kroger as well. We got Kroger up here in Massachusetts as well, I think. Yeah, I think we do now. It's like 1 or 2. Anyway, I just wanted to compare it. So I know what he's talking about. So Albertsons is a mid-range store for sure. So the Acme store is definitely on point.
Variant. In terms of the individual brands of items we'll be looking at, I again went with comparable, non-generic items. It is funny that the last video I uploaded, I had Brits sounding off going, he used the name brand stuff. It's actually not fair. There were a lot cheaper products. While I also had Americans going, whoa, he used some name brand stuff. I can't believe this. It's not fair. That is funny. Just give me the benefit of the doubt here that my goal here is to make it as one-to-one as possible. I have experienced life in both countries. I've shopped for groceries in both countries, and I'm very well aware of what products line up roughly in the quality range and the price range, depending on what country you live in. So
yeah, I'm sure this guy's going to be dead on, especially with the data he has that I don't have to compare to. So I'm anxious to see what he has to do. I was just trying to give you an idea. Safeway is is a little bit lower in status than Albertsons for sure, but he's in the right range anyways. It's not Walmart. He's right there because Walmart's garbage. No matter what you do, no matter what you're buying, Walmart is swill.
Yeah. And the final way I made this comparison a comparison was to use Google Sheets' conversion algorithms to ensure that the weights of the items were normalized. So if one was in ounces, one was in grams, doesn't matter. The price is for the same exact weight of the same item. In terms of tax, most US states actually don't have sales tax on groceries. There are 13 that do, but I'm looking at groceries in New Jersey, which does not have sales tax on food, so that doesn't need to be taken into account. I've converted everything into pounds for Brits on the left-hand side, and I've converted everything into dollars for Yanks on the right-hand side. Without further ado, let's go. Can the U.S.
I gotta tell you, I'm gonna get murdered on this shitty background music from Epidemic Sound. I'm guessing that's probably where it's from. They nail us every video that we try to react to with this. They nail us for it, but that's okay. I don't mind. Epidemic Sound can take all the money for this because if this guy's gonna break it down this good, I'm in.
U.S. come out on top after last year's embarrassing defeat? Let us see. So, foodstuffs, our first category, an 800-gram loaf of bread. The UK price, £1.39. Not too shabby. The US price, oh God, nearly 3 times more expensive at £4.08. Ooh, sure, the UK is cheaper to buy a loaf of bread, but if we compare each country to how it was last year, well, it looks like the UK's inflation was nearly 16% for that loaf of bread, whereas the US's was nearly 10. This is not looking good. Now, my favorite items we're going to be looking at today are ones where the brand is the same in the US and the UK, because
just because on the last video somebody pointed out, oh, you forgot to point out how horrible the products are in the United States. Not at all what the fucking video is about, pardon my French, but I will admit, your food is much, much better. Also, yes, I just want to point out, when you're starting out that cheap, that big of an increase, it is a bigger increase, but really if you look at the difference, things went up. You can't, if you go up that high of a percentage when you're already at 350, people are going to revolt. So 10% makes more sense, I think. But I'm just saying, when you're that much higher in price, you can only go up so much without the economy completely collapsing, I would say. But let's get back to it. I mean, I just point out small things I'm seeing. That's all. No big deal.
Removes just that many more extra variables, such as Quaker oats, porridge oats, oatmeal, whatever you want to call it. 1 kilogram in the UK. Pretty cheap breakfast, we're looking at a price of £2.30. Whereas in the US, it's over double at £5.14. However, another one where the US wins, the inflation, the price relatively went up, but not quite as much as the UK.
So here you go, while it's on the screen. Inflation percentage, we have to remember, when food is already through the frickin' roof, you can't go up 17 or 18%. I mean, you can, but no one's going to buy it. I mean, let's look at the difference. So it went up 35 cents, or 35 pence, sorry, in the UK, but it went up, 74 cents? Is that what that is? 74 cents? So it's double the amount of pennies that it went up. Just say, I'm not. He's given some good hard data. Your inflation rate definitely is higher than ours, probably on every item on here. But I think it's relative to what the economy can sustain because we're already so much higher, I would guess. I don't know.
UK. Kellogg's cornflakes, same brand, US and UK, easy to do this comparison. The UK bag of that dreadful cereal, we're looking at £2.25, whereas the US's equivalent price, holy crap, £5.43. However, the US is probably feeling bad right now. They're on the same trajectory as they were last year. But yet again, the UK has had a dreadful year for inflation, and it looks like 1.48% for the US. Wow, that's not too bad. Most Americans probably aren't going to notice that very small increase in price for those Kellogg's cornflakes. But Brits, what? 12.5%. Oh, God. 10 times the rate of increase as the US's. Ugh. And here we go, a close one, a 500-gram bag of basmati rice. It is cheaper in the UK, but not by much, just under £3, whereas the equivalent is just over £3 in the US. Weirdly enough, the increase in price is pretty similar between the US and the UK, with around 16 to 17%. The UK actually snagging one for inflation for once. Hooray, it's still 16%. Now for 250 grams of name brand salted butter, the UK just squeaked by with another win, but if we look at the inflation, the US actually pays less for this butter than they did last year. What?
So butter and eggs, talk about this real quick, all right? Had he done this video 6 months ago, it would have been ridiculous. Butter was up to, he's saying $3.58. I think that's for a pound. You can get it right now. Again, state by state, it's different. Right now, $3.99 is a good price. You buy it in bulk, or if you buy it, at a better store, or you can get it down to like $2.99 to $3.25 a pound. Especially if you're buying it like a wholesale club, they do like 4 pounds for $12, so you're getting $3 a pound. But butter spiked. Butter cream and eggs spiked like fucking insane over here. Mad spike. And then they dip back down to where they were at or just a little bit below even to correct the market. So you're seeing the end result of a negative 1.52%. But there was a point when butter was through the roof. It was so bad I was considering using margarine. I didn't use margarine. I'm not a savage, but either way. But yeah, no, it's good to see. I mean, I'm happy to see this actually. I mean, again, it's crazy. But look though, 7.5%, but it's 19 cents. I mean, it all adds up. I know it adds up. It's crazy. It's nuts.
I'm just surprised. I feel like everything has been going up, but the US somehow managed butter to pay a little less. Wow. Also, by the way, I did forget to mention, we're not looking at sale prices in any of these just because I want to make sure it is fair between the countries. Doesn't matter if you're a club card member in either country. And also that way you can really see the inflation based on the retail price.
I really like this guy. I want to point that out. I really like, he's very to the point. He explains everything in clear detail. Seems like he's got his stuff together. I'm really, really loving the presentation here.
As a bonus, Kerrygold is my favorite butter, and it is available in shops in the US and the UK, imported from Ireland. However, imagine buying your 250-gram block of Kerrygold butter and going, oh, £2.40. I can barely stomach this. I'm gonna go back to margarine. Well, in the US, the equivalent is £4.10. Whoo! Wow. Puts a little perspective on it, doesn't it? Next up, 4 pints of whole milk. The UK is yet again 2 times cheaper than the US. But this is one where the price lock was enacted, and the price of milk has not gone up at all year over year in the UK, whereas it did experience a small increase in the US. For any Americans that are unaware, a lot of UK shops do things such as price lock to make sure that the price of some basics doesn't change over the course of multiple weeks, or they'll try and trick people into not going to Aldi or Lidl for the much cheaper basics by saying, we'll match whatever they have. And so because of this good competition, we actually have milk not going up in price. We win this one thing. Next up, 550 grams of cheddar cheese and oh my God, yes, it's more expensive in the States, but the price of cheddar cheese in the UK has gone up by 20%. Oh God damn. Whereas in the US, the price has gone down by 10%. They do subsidize their cheese over there, but oh God, I do buy cheese. And this is one thing that I have noticed in a huge differential in price in the last year. And for the final,
I just want to point out, because I got to point out where I see discrepancies as the person who does the bulk of the grocery shopping in my house. I believe that was, I just want to go back and look real fast on this cheese. Let's see, what did he have here? He had, back another half a second here.
Next up,
There we go. Okay. 8 ounce Cracker Barrel. All right. That's $4.49. So for a pound, listen, you can get, again, different states though. So like I was saying earlier, so he's in a different state. In my state, for an 8 ounce Cracker Barrel, it's like $3.79. For the 1 pound, it's like $6.99. So big difference in price, state by state even. But he was just saying cheese is subsidized.
150 grams of cheddar cheese and
I never knew that, so that could be why.
oh my God, yes, it's more expensive in the States, but the price of cheddar cheese in the UK has gone up by 10%. They do subsidize their cheese over there, but oh God, I do buy cheese. And this is one thing that I have noticed in a huge differential in price in the last year. And for the final one in this category, a dozen large eggs, in which the UK has finally received a loss. It is just a little bit cheaper to get comparable eggs in the US. Now this was
U.S. inflation 0. Boy, again, time to time. So this is, we pointed out earlier, eggs were over $6 a fucking dozen. They're $1.79 again. But they shot. What happened was in the United States, the avian flu struck some of the biggest bird farms, and when they do, they have to kill every chicken in the world apparently. So they have to wipe the entire farm out. Apparently, there's no way to say, well, it's just in these 3 chicken houses. Nope, they got to wipe the entire. It's the U.S. rules. You got to kill every fowl on the land. You're talking 500-acre bird farms, and they have to kill everything. They burn the whole things, and they start from scratch. Some of these places they burned down and they never got back up and running again. It was ridiculous. We were so blessed to have a neighbor across the street who had chickens that lay fresh eggs, and her kids don't really eat eggs because we got a lot of eggs from our neighbor. Thank goodness. Eggs were bad. They were so bad, $5-6 a dozen. So to see him say 0% increase on eggs, that's great because we're back to where we were. But they were really, really bad just 3 months ago. These just came back down like in the past couple months. It's crazy.
was a narrow race because I made it really comparable. But from my experience in the UK, it's very difficult to find eggs that aren't free range, whereas in the US, you can expect to pay less than half of the price here if you do not care about that, because there are a lot of super tiny caged chickens eggs that you can get in the US. You don't.
It's not true. Sorry, sir, but that is untrue. Federal government mandated about a year ago that all eggs have to be free range. If you look at any dozen eggs now in the United States, they all say free range on them. They're not organic. They're not necessarily grass fed. They don't check all the feel good boxes, but they all are free range. No more chickens in cages. They haven't been like that for a while now. So maybe, I'm sure living in the UK, he probably hasn't been updated on that. I actually didn't realize it until I went to the store and I was like, man, it's all these free range eggs. There's no normal eggs, but the free range eggs are the same price as the normal eggs used to be. This is great. And then I asked about it, and somebody at the store told me they all have to be free range. And now anywhere you go, you cannot find a box anywhere that doesn't say free range on them. Federal law, all chickens have to be free range in the United States now. And something he probably isn't brought up to speed on. So I just screwed up where I was at. There we go. I think we were right around here. So, all right, let's get back.
Can you imagine spending £4 for one can of beans? In the States really enjoys the taste of Heinz baked beans. So
let's go back to where I gotta find the eggs,
about that, because there are a lot of super tiny caged chickens eggs that you can get in the US. You don't have to shell out as much money, but cruelty and whatnot. Now, even though it wasn't in last year's video, I was going to add a 4-pack of Heinz beans because everybody in the UK always buys those every time they go shopping, right? But they're actually a lot more expensive.
Those beans are good. I hate baked beans. Those beans are damn good, and you can't find them. We have to order them on Amazon. They're like $8 a can.
In the US, because we have better beans there, Heinz actually have to be imported. Even though it's an American company based in Pittsburgh, hence the logo being a keystone for the Keystone State, Pennsylvania, they actually have to be imported from the Wigan factory in England to get their specific British formulation of baked beans into the States, because no one in the States really enjoys the taste of Heinz baked beans. So even though you can get a 4-pack in the UK for £3.75 this year, in the US at Walmart, the cheapest store, $20. What? I can't imagine.
I wasn't kidding.
Can you imagine spending £4 for one can of beans? No. Anyway, I didn't put that one in the calculation because I just don't think that's actually a fair comparison. But without further ado, that is actually the end of the first section. Moving on, we're going to go with fruits and vegetables. So onions, 95 pence for a kilogram versus the US, which is £3.64. Nearly 4 times more expensive for a kilogram of onions, but another one where the US's price has not increased at all this year, whereas the UK's has yet again. So as much as it must be nice for Brits to go, whew, at least it's not as expensive as in the US, no one's really thinking that. They're thinking, bloody hell, why am I spending so much more on onions?
I got an onion problem, all right? And it has nothing to do with the price. Onions are whatever. They're cheap enough. You usually get a small bag of onions for like $2.79 or whatever, but here's the problem. I've always bought onions, and I could buy like a big massive bag of onions if I wanted to. Hey, you use them as you need them, you keep them in like dry storage or whatever. Onions suck nowadays. You buy a small bag of onions and half of them are starting to rot and they're starting to be shit. It doesn't matter what store I've gone to, how fresh they allegedly are. Onions have gotten worse and worse and worse. I think that they're harvesting them wrong, or maybe what I fear is happening is they're freezing them and then thawing them and selling them. I don't know. But I've had a big issue with onions for years. Onions have really taken a downturn in the United States. You can't buy a bag of onions and just let it sit around, because when you get them, you already have a couple that are starting to turn, or they're getting that translucent outer shell edges, because it's horrible. Onions are shit in the United States. I said it. I'll say it again. Onions are shit in the United States.
Onion enough. No. Yet again, tomatoes coming out with a resounding win for the States, and inflation for both countries was pretty minimal for tomatoes. Last year, Pink Lady apples were just a little bit more expensive in the UK than the US, and this year, the divide has widened, yet again because UK inflation is affecting literally everything. Now, bananas are a little bit more expensive in the States, but it seems like both countries absolutely had to deal with a very big increase in banana prices. The UK, again, 28% for the price of bananas. The US is dealing with 17%, so that's high. But yet again, I think this is what we're seeing data with on the news, is that even though inflation might be high in other countries at some things, the UK's is like, hold my banana. Back to being a bloodbath, a kilogram bag of carrots is nearly 4 times more expensive in the US, but relative to last year, they're not really sweating, whereas the UK's is over 10% more expensive. And a similar story, raisins, same thing. The US's price went down, the UK's went up by about 9%. So even though it's a bit cheaper over here, What? Cucumber. Well, last year, this was a bit of a fair competition between the cucumbers. However, it's nearly the same price if you buy a cucumber in the US and the UK, because the price of a cucumber has gone up by 33%. What are you guys using your cucumbers for in the UK? I mean, what is going on? We having a cuke shortage? What is happening? Oh my God, what happened to the price of canned tomatoes? The US's inflation was 12%, which is pretty high for them, whereas the UK's was 69% it's nearly double for a can of tomatoes. Buy them fresh, totally fine. Buy a can, almost double in the UK. Probably this time next year when I upload my third version of this video, we might just see the US come out on top for this and quite a few of these if inflation in the UK is just not fixed. We do have a general election next year. We might get the Tories out of office, so we might actually have a chance. And to think they used to be the ones that were supposedly financially sound. They need to learn to read the room, all right? And finally, a bag of potatoes nearly 4 times more expensive in the US. However, we finally get an inflation win. Sure, the US has had a 0% for this one, but the UK's has gone down. So if you want to
It went from 0.70 pounds to 0.83 pounds. How's that going down? I think you reverse those numbers.
buy potatoes at your local supermarket, it's actually a little bit cheaper in the UK for once. Thank God. Live off potatoes. All right, that does it for the fruit and vegetable section. Moving on to the meats. Oh God. Ground beef, mince meat, whatever you want to call it. The UK is still cheaper to buy this. However, compared to last year's resounding win, the price of mincemeat has gone up by 47%. This is a huge one that I've actually noticed when I've been shopping recently. I buy a lot of mincemeat, I buy a lot of chicken breasts, and it just feels like my shop is just so much more expensive than it used to be, and I think it really does come down to the meats. Let's see what happens with chicken breasts. 650 grams of chicken breasts, we're looking at £5.33 in the USA, and £4.75 in the UK. So yeah, in terms of inflation, yet again, US's price stayed the same, whereas the UK's has gone up by 13%.
I gotta move to New Jersey because hamburger and chicken have gone to the fucking roof in the past year. I mean, they really have. Like, you used to be able to find chicken on sale, $2.99 a pound for boneless, skinless chicken breast, which is what he was showing there. Now, boneless, skinless chicken breast is like $5 a pound on sale, $3.99 a pound. It used to be like $4 and on sale for $3. It's gone up a whole dollar, 25% in every store in this state. Every store. You know, I shopped down in Maryland when I was down there. It's the same thing down there. So Jersey must be really cool with as far as being able to avoid inflation. I don't know, because hamburger has gone up tremendously, and so has chicken. I'm just, again, state by state, they inflate at a different rate. Like that little saying there, it rhymes too. State by state, they inflate at a different rate.
God
apparently.
Damn. Smoked bacon, another one where it's a little bit more expensive in the US, and inflation has caused the UK's to go up by a little bit. I pretty much have sausages, either Cumberland or Lincolnshire.
Hold on a second. Hold on. He said... Okay, again, he said the UK's went up a little bit, 250 to 265. He said there was no inflation in the United States yet. It went from 330 to 462.
I pretty much have sausages, either Cumberland or Lincolnshire, every single day for breakfast, so I've definitely felt this one. Yes, it's more expensive for sausages in the US. However, their price has gone down by about 10%, whereas the UK's has gone up by 24%. God! The price of tuna has stayed the same in the US, whereas in the UK it's up by 42%. Still cheaper than the US, but I don't think anyone's caring about that anymore. And finally, with salmon fillets, we actually see a resounding inflation win with the UK. Hooray for 5% compared to the US's 21.8%. And that does it for the meats, and all the groceries really. It's time to see the totals. If you were to buy all these items in the UK this week, the price would put you back £58.11, whereas in the US, you are paying £92.41. That is yet again over 50% more expensive for a shop. However, when we compare it to last year's shop, the US's equivalent is an inflation rate of 2.97%. That's not bad. However, and here's where the rough part is, if we look at the UK's inflation, we're looking at 16.26% if you bought each of these items last year and each of these items this year. That's disgusting. That's really rough. The fact that salaries haven't been raising in the last year by 16%, if you haven't received a 16% raise in this 1 year alone, you would be losing money over last year. That's disgusting. This is so bad. And yes, I did try and keep everything as one-to-one as last time, but this also isn't accounting for the fact that some of these brands are going out of their way to participate in shrinkflation. For instance, Sainsbury's for the chicken breasts are charging more and giving you 10 grams less. And you'll see that across lots of different products. For instance, I know Lurpak is doing that. They're now like, oh, you're used to 250 grams? How's 200? But pay the same price. No. Here's a spreadsheet of all the results and everything that I uncovered this year. And yeah, it's just a lot more annoying seeing these numbers physically as opposed to just in my own head of going, oh, that's weird. I never have to spend that much money when I go to the shops every single time. So even though groceries are still cheaper to buy in the UK, that might change year over year, depending on how bad inflation is and how far the UK government lets that slip. Either way, I really like this series, and I will be doing another one next year. I did a video comparing the prices of Aldi's last year, but that one didn't necessarily hit as much as the standard mid-range that I'm doing right now, so I don't know if I'll do a version 2 of that. Depends on if anyone's actually interested.
All right, so that was the comparison between the United States and UK as far as inflation has gone. He went from $108 to $111 in the United States in a year on groceries, and I'm gonna tell you right now, it's bullshit. That's not true. It's not, I don't understand. I don't understand it. He's got some good firm data here. He seems like a very bright guy. Maybe in Jersey, it's an anomaly for the United States compared to the rest of the country. I'm telling you, my grocery bill is through the roof. I'm telling you right now, milk, eggs, cheese, bread, canned goods, fresh meats especially, fresh vegetables especially, through the roof right now. Everything is. For him to say that hamburger, chicken hasn't gone up at all, that tuna fish in a can hasn't gone up, I mean, these are crazy. Eggs haven't gone up. I mean, that's even more insane to even say that with what we've gone through the past year with eggs tripling in price. So I question some of the things on here. It's a good video, it's nice, and it's all cool, but I'm paying this every day. I pay for a family of 7. I can tell you right now, it's not a $3 increase on a $108 bill. That's not true. Not true at all. So anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. I enjoyed it. I did. It's got to be a state-by-state thing, because in Massachusetts we're getting killed. But again, in Massachusetts, minimum wage went from I don't know, what was it, $8.25 to $15 an hour. So, that could be a big difference in what he's seeing and what I'm seeing. And at the end of the day, that's probably the big difference. So, this guy seems super intelligent. I love his number crunching, his facts. I like that he broke everything down for us. I got a lot of respect for what he did. And I think that a big difference in my opinion and his opinion are seriously where we live. It's got to be it. I would imagine, and I know that people told me on the last video that the higher north you go, the cheaper things get. Well, that could be it too. It just could be demographics. I think that might be it. So, but yeah, I wanted to check this out. I know that the last video everyone was pretty into it. There was another video some people sent me, and then someone sent me this and said, "Hey, this is a brand new one, and it's actual data breaking down numbers versus numbers from last year, this year." This is Evan Ettinger. And I'll try to put a link to his channel in the description below so you guys can go check him out. He's got some really cool videos on his page. So thank you all for watching this. Evan, thanks for breaking all this down for us, man. Again, I trust that you're an intelligent guy and you did this right. I just think that we're in 2 totally different parts of the country. That's all. You guys be good, all right? Take care of yourselves. I'll catch you soon. Squirrel out.